r/AskReddit by Reddition. Like and subscribe. Besides their accent, what's one way you know a tourist is American? When visiting Paris, my wife and I learned they don't seat you at restaurants. You just walk in and sit down at an available table. We figured it out after standing around at the entrance a few times. Then we started noticing other American tourists doing the same. While in Korea, I was casually talking to a friend on the bus in regular speaking voice. Not even a minute later, the lady in front of us turns around in her seat and says very casually, "Please calm down. I guess American volume is noticeably louder." When they introduce themselves, they never say they're from America, mostly the state/city they're from. Saying hi, "How are you?" to the barista, servers, retail workers. My country doesn't quite have that culture, so I find it really sweet. The absolute fearlessness of asking anyone on the street about anything. Edit, I don't mean this negatively, I'm just saying I've seen Americans approach people both in my home country and abroad, starting conversations with them that I wouldn't dream of. Because they look shady or just plain scary. Example, I was in Newcastle and I see a bald-headed skinny man with face tattoos and a tracksuit suddenly get asked, "Hey bud, do you know where?" It's quite admirable. Being called African American while living in the Netherlands. A black mate of mine from London was once haltingly referred to as a British African American by a tourist. Went to Russia once, and they knew, because I smiled too much, those pearly whites are a one-way ticket to the gulag. When I went to Italy with a friend, I couldn't figure out why everyone greeted me in English before I said a word. I don't wear running shoes outside of the gym. I dress pretty posh. I can't remember the last time I owned a baseball cap, and I try to have a basic grasp on the local language. How can they tell I'm American? My friend told me, "It's because you're smiling at them." Some of you are way more polite than expected. Whenever I hear someone say "ma'am," I know they are American. Like one time I was in Lidl and there was an American family asking someone who worked there if they sold cell phones, and when the woman said they didn't, they were all, "Oh okay, thank you for your time ma'am. Have a great day." Which is much more cheery than the average Scot. Trying to interact with strangers in public areas. They get amazed by old things. Girlfriend used to work on a farm and an estate in the UK and would often have Americans in awe of the old buildings. One once said, "Some of these buildings are older than my country. Reminds me of that old saw. Americans think 100 years is a long time. Europeans think 100 miles is a long way." If you see an American in Japan, they will frantically look for public trash cans. The absence of trash receptacle is something unfounded in the US, and we become confused at the idea of having to hold it for extended periods of time. Asking for the restroom. I mean, obviously the accent was then heard too, but in my little village in Scotland I was in the pub and a woman politely asked the barman where the restrooms were. He didn't know WTF she was on about, and then it obviously clicked. "You mean the toilet?" And it's juiced backer. Tipping. Americans will try to tip everyone, even in countries where tipping isn't a thing / is considered a serious insult. I'm half Japanese, and I live in Japan. Basically, we automatically assume any white person is American. They're looking for a store open at like 11 PM. Even if in most European countries stores close at like 7 to 8 PM. Any Americans will be wearing sneakers. Yep. I walked into a museum in Germany and the women selling tickets greeted us in English. We were dressed conservatively and hadn't said a word, yet she knew. I asked her how, and she said, "It's your shoes." Indeed, I was wearing running shoes. Extra rice in their drinks. I taught English in Japan. One of the ways we got the students to speak was to make them guess where we were from, because they had a hard time differentiating between American, British, Aussie, etc. accents. After a year, none of them ever guessed I was American, so I asked them why Americans are fat and loud. "You're small and quiet." I hear that us Americans can easily be spotted in the airport by the fact usually we are used to taking off our shoes in TSA. Baseball caps and shorts. Baseball caps, university spirit wear, cargo shorts, free t-shirts from events with ads and text all over them, and for the older Americans they always seem to just kinda stand in the middle of everything looking around. Confidence. I have never seen someone walk so confidently in the wrong direction like an American can. This is going to sound made up, just because of how ridiculous this is. I wouldn't believe it myself hadn't I have seen this happen myself. Back when I lived in Poland, there was a couple standing in front of me in the line at a McDonald's who were outraged that McDonald's didn't accept US dollars as a form of payment. But McDonald's is American. Actual quote from the guy. Just a reminder, this was in Poland. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they were American. I was in France once in a very famous and classy art gallery and saw a wildly overweight sweaty man with a shirt on that read something like vegetarians are just bad hunters or something along those lines with a huge picture of a dinosaur. I turned to my friend and said, that's definitely an American. Sure enough he then called his kids over in a very southern twang, and it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Beige cargo shorts and very white legs. I've seen multiple American tourists here in Canada asking their partners where's the snow? I really hope they were joking, it was summer at the time. Volume. I read somewhere that the way we put our weight on one leg while standing is a sign, as well as holding a cigarette with the middle and index finger instead of the index and thumb. They're overexcited over something ordinary. OMG, look at that grass, how green it is. Pronouncing things horribly and not making any attempt to fix it. On my honeymoon in Quebec City, an American couple kept pronouncing Quebec as Quebec. Granted, most Anglophones don't pronounce it right here anyways, but for some reason I felt like this guy was going out of his way to pronounce it stupidly. White socks pulled all the way up. They are so loud. Whilst in the UK they will use every opportunity to tell you how they are half Irish or Scottish because their great-great-grandmother once ate an oatcake. The way they walk. I lived in France for a year, and by the 5th month I could spot an American by their I've been here for 4 days, therefore I know the city pretty well swagger. A lot of them would literally almost sway, and they had a wider stance than Europeans. Some Americans are impressively fat. I've seen America guys with fat necks, like how much food do you have to eat before your body starts storing it in your neck? Truly awe-inspiring units. Normally seen wearing high-tech walking boots, sticks, and Gore-Tex in the middle of the town center on a nice summer's day. Normally carrying a map in a special map bag. It's not a bad thing, it just looks silly and out of place. Also, they are much nicer than the average British. I have no idea how Americans have the reputation for being bad tourists, but the British don't. If I see a group of Americans at my local, I normally go over and talk to them because I know it will be a good time and will probably end with us all drunk at 3 AM singing, eating kebabs, and making plans to totally meet up again if I ever visit their state. Normally the way you dress. For some reason some of you guys treat going abroad like you're going to do some hardcore Amazon exploring, but you're in Europe. Or if you guys are in London, you have a magnet attached to you that's attracted to telephone and post boxes. Handing the credit card to the server to be taken away and processed. Today I learned we have monopoly on baseball caps. Seriously. Apparently shorts aren't worn anywhere else either. Shorts, yes. Cargo/khaki shorts, no. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for daily Reddit videos.